Hi, I'm David DiMuzio.
I'm Therese Tiangco.
And today we're going to talk about the number one worst thing in the Philippines. This is my opinion on the number one worst thing. And I dragged Therese along with me to discuss this because this is in no way bashing the Philippines or people in the Philippines or anything like that. But I think...
Constructive criticism?
Exactly.
You just gotta know it sometimes, even if it's painful. So that we could change the Philippines into a better place.
Nothing would make me happier than the world constantly becoming a better place. And I think sometimes it's easier with an outsider's perspective to notice things that might be a little bit off or could kind of be improved. And in the same way, if you live in the US your entire life, how do you really have a perspective of what might be good or bad about the US? It's much more difficult versus someone from the Philippines coming to the US for the first time. I think is gonna have a much more clear perspective after a couple years of living there, of going, okay, this doesn't seem right, but this seems right. So the number one worst thing about the Philippines, in my opinion, is a lack of personal responsibility. Let me tell you.
Please explain.
I'll tell you a story about how I first started noticing this in like a very visceral way. There was a security guard at the complex I was living at in Manila, in Makati, and he was complaining to me one day about the Philippines, and he was saying that the politicians were very corrupt in the Philippines, and that was the reason there was a lot of problems in the Philippines, was the corrupt politicians.
Yeah, which is true.
You hear that a lot, all the time.
Because there are a lot of corrupt.
Everything is wrong with the Philippines because of the corrupt politicians, you know?
Yeah.
And then a couple days later, I happened to notice by accident that he was renting out one of the parking spaces that, like, it didn't belong to him. It was somebody who wasn't there at the time, and so it was an empty space, and so he was renting it out under the table and making extra money by renting out this other person's parking space that, like, they didn't know about. So he was exactly doing the corrupt thing that he was complaining that the politicians did, but just on a smaller scale.
And a smaller level. And
so I started noticing this after that experience. It was like after I lived in the Philippines just a little while, I started noticing this throughout, from the very, very bottom to the very top. There is a certain level of corruption, but the people that are on the bottom and in the middle, they don't really talk about it. They only talk about the people at the top being an issue. And what I mean is, let's go to even the taxi cab drivers. You know, that's an issue for a lot of people in the Philippines. Taxi cabs ripping you off, right?
Or they decline you, or they like add extra money, be like, okay, pay me more.
Exactly. And what is this except for corruption?
That's corruption too.
It's corruption. And when you go to a place like...
Yeah, sometimes that's how they make ends meet.
Yeah, I mean, and that's totally the way that they justify it. I'm sure that's the same way that the politicians justify what they're doing. I'm sure they have some justification in their mind. When you go to a place like Japan, which there are lots of other issues with, but corruption among people and especially personal responsibility is like very important in Japan. And when I'm in Japan and there is a red light, if you walk across the street at a red light in Japan, literally everybody will look at you like, what the heck is wrong with you? Like, it's red.
That's true.
Like, you are breaking the rules.
Jaywalking so normal. People are gonna laugh if you actually stop. They're like, why are you waiting? You just go.
A lot of Filipino people expect the one that makes it in their family or that's making money to sort of support everybody else. And why is that? Because they don't feel their own personal responsibility, that they need to make it on their own.
But it's also utang ng loob.
Yep, utang na loob. It means debt of gratitude, which I don't really agree with at all.
I mean, there's an extent, you know.
There are exceptions
to
everything. I think helping is awesome. But having this utang na loob, which is like, you owe me a debt of gratitude, there's no personal responsibility. It's like, when you help somebody, you shouldn't expect them to help you back. You should just do that because it's the right thing to do. I've been in many taxi cabs and literally just seen the taxi cab driver be drinking, you know, a cola or whatever, pull over and just throw the trash onto the side of the street. Like that's a trash can right there. I'm like, what? Somebody else has to pick this up. I've even noticed that when people are sick in the Philippines, that they aren't likely to say to somebody, oh, like, I can't go out with you because I don't want to get you sick.
Oh yeah, and they actually even go to the hospital even though they're sick, and they visit the sick person, and it just makes things worse.
Yeah, I've had a lot of my Filipino friends, like, they know I'm a singer and that I rely on my voice, you know, to be able to make a living. And they'll show up to like hang out with me and they'll be sick. They'll literally like have an awful cold and be coughing all over the place. And I'm like, couldn't you have told me before we met up? Like, I'm sick, maybe we shouldn't meet up because I don't want to get you sick. Also, putting your self-worth on other people, saying like, oh, we Filipinos are great because Manny Pacquiao is a great boxer, or like Bruno Mars is half Filipino, so like Philippines is great. Like, that's not putting the personal responsibility on yourself. Like, I think it's so much better if you can say, I'm a great singer because I've worked so hard at developing my voice, or I am a really honest person who takes care of my family. Like, this is awesome personal responsibility, not like, oh, I'm so proud of myself because Manny Pacquiao is a great boxer.
Yeah, so you also have to focus on ourselves.
It's to focus on yourself.
Rather than other people sometimes. But also, I don't know.
Exactly, I think to focus on yourself so that everyone is better off. So that's my opinion, guys. Thanks so much for watching. This is the #1 worst thing about the Philippines. There are lots of great things about the Philippines, and I'm gonna make a video called 5 ways that I think the Philippines is better than America. So if you didn't like this video, maybe you'll like that one.